It is the Welcome to Cooperville podcast. Welcome back. I know it's been a minute, but it seems like we have plenty to talk about, plenty to go over today, and we will. But first, we'll get on the happier side of things, and that's me saying thank you to the sponsors of the Welcome to Cooperville podcast, Midwest Meals, midwestmeals.com. There's so much going on. Perhaps having time to actually sit down and cook a decent, healthy meal is a little beyond your capabilities at this point. Midwest Meals has 13 rotating meals for you to choose from, and it's super simple. They actually just implemented, this was just a couple of weeks ago, they have a new machine. I had Dan Beck on from Midwest Meals a while back, and we talked about their new fancy machine so they can actually keep your food fresher longer. So instead of lasting a week, you get like 10 days out of it. So you can really meal prep in a very simple way, and everything, of course, has all the numbers on there you need to know as far as your macro count, what kind of calories you're putting in, proteins, carbs, fats, all the good stuff. And you get 10% off your first order with the promo code Cooper at checkout, midwestmeals.com. Supporting local. Dan's doing great things over there at Midwest Meals. And of course, my friends at Monster Energy, always bringing the extra oomph into my daily life, because trust me, they talk about the 24-hour news cycle, and it feels like we're not even in the news. I'm just a platform for smart people to talk on. Don't ask me the questions. I don't have the answers. But you have to try to keep up with not only all the things going on with COVID-19, rules, regulations, and the things going on in the world and nationally. And then maybe you have like things you want to do for fun and enjoyment and pleasure. Remember those things? Those were fun. I digress. But Monster Energy, and especially their new Monster Hydro flavors they have out right now. So hydration plus caffeine plus branched chain amino acids, all the good stuff for you from Monster Energy. Hashtag Monster Podcast. Without further ado, my friend Kyle Yudes and I, we go back several years before the craziness, before we were, feels like you wake up every day and there's a different set of rules and regulations. We go back to, I think not the last time I saw you, but one of my vivid memories of you and Angela was you were holding on to like the handle of a guitar at Rockfest. And I was like, dude, you're like, well, I think, was it Seether? Was it the Seether? Yeah. And I was trying to correlate that when we set this up. And I was like, here's Kyle walking through the front of the Rockfest VIP area with like a guitar handle, just like, hey, look what I got. And I'm like, what? Like, how does these things happen?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy because I really wasn't into Seether because I seen them a couple times, and then they went into their encore, and it was like true 90s fashion grunge where they're just really just rocking out. And all of a sudden he started smashing his guitar, and I found myself flying up to the front of the line, and he comes out to the stage and tosses it up. I'm not afraid to say I did push quite a few people out, and maybe pushed it through a baby. I don't know. But yeah. I came up with that guitar, and it's hanging on my wall right now. So
that's fantastic. And it's, it's kind of correlating, I guess, to talk about things like that, because I mean, we were there and you've been there many years. I spent many years there. I'm still doing work out there for the guys at Chippewa Valley Music Festivals. But you think about those moments in time. You think about being in a crowd of 18 to 25,000 people,
right?
And you're there and you're doing your thing. Obviously, you're pushing babies out of the way, which I'm cool with. Like, it doesn't bother me any. But you kind of walk away from that, and you're like, that was cool, great experience. You never really think like, wow, that I would never in a million years say something like that. Those type of events that up here, especially in the Midwest, you literally plan your summer around, the weekends of the festivals around here, and to have those kind of things and a multitude of other things that didn't happen in 2020. 2021 is a huge question mark. Recipes for Freedom is the organization, the group that you were involved with. And I do have to ask, at what point, because you have a job,
yeah,
you have a career. At what point during all of this do you go, it's not enough for me to just, maybe post my thoughts, or maybe talk to my significant other about my thoughts, or my group of friends and family, express how I'm feeling about these things. And at what moment during the course of all this do you decide, getting involved is actually a calling and a passion of yours? Because it seems like it's really gone kind of next level with the things that you're doing.
I wish I could tell you there was a point where I said, yes, I'm going to do this.
Hmm.
But the way it happened is I just happened to be made aware of a local health ordinance. And I went down and I met some people and I thought, wow, this is really good. I wouldn't do a rally this way because you're alienating some people. Whatever, it's cool. I met some people. And then through networking, I found myself getting more and more involved. And pretty soon I'm being handed a microphone and said, hey, you're used to this. Go to talk. Let's do a rally. And so I do a rally, and then people are coming up to me like I have the answers. I'm like, I don't know. And it just kept on snowballing from there. And before you know it, I'm seeking some type of lawful action because I realized whatever, it didn't matter how much data we had or how many experts we could bring or doctors or whatever. We could provide A, B, C, and D for evidence, but all the people that were in charge would give us was a big F and a big U. So I realized we really needed to go a legal route. And so by doing that, I started having more questions and I started asking questions. I found the constitutional law group, and every time I had a question, they were there to answer it. And every question I had, it gave me 20 more questions. And so I dive in there, and pretty soon I'm hundreds of hours into research and just, digging in, and I'm feeling more passionate. And then the opportunity came up where they're like, hey, you know quite a bit. Why don't you join our team? I was like, I ain't ready for that. They're like, yeah, you are. You're there. And so at that point, when somebody finally asked me to join the team, that's when I sat back and talked with my family. Is like, do I do this? And they're like, you've been doing this. So I got dragged in. And even though I kind of knew it, I had little control. And then I looked back and I realized how deep I was. It might as well just keep going.
And then I know you've done, a lot of events, a lot of speaking engagements, a lot of opportunities to get in front of people, and to have not just your voice here, but I think by default, since you do have some experience with a microphone or a megaphone, or just put something in Kyle, he's like, I'll tell the people what's going on.
That's right.
But to have all this opportunity, and I encourage people to go and check out Recipes of Freedom on Facebook currently. Obviously everybody at this point should be well aware there's giant question marks about what big tech does next with groups like this. But I encourage you all to go and see where Kyle's not only spoke, but where he's been. All the other great people involved in this organization are going and speaking. But you've had a chance to go and not just, speak about constitutional rights and your unalienable rights as a citizen of the U.S., but you've also had, I'm sure, plenty of opportunity to listen to not just business owners, because there's a plethora of those out there who are really struggling to get through not just, the COVID, but also the rules and regulations, invisible lines being, obviously there's a river that goes between Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Right.
There's a river. We all know there's a line, but when you go from one place to another, you have a different set of rules and regulations. I have a mother who lives out in California, completely different set of rules and regulations. So you've had a chance to listen to a lot of people and they voice their concerns about what's going on. What are some of the big things that you hear from the people that you've had a chance to not only speak in front of, but just to talk to either through the group or through other means?
Well, one thing I heard, and it started early. As you know, I'm an insurance agent. I own my own small business under a banner of another one. And I started hearing and seeing these heartbreaking stories, people that poured all they had in. They just took out big loans and started a business. And now it's taken away because who they were selling to or who they're providing to is dried up. And there's so many business owners that, I listen to them cry. I've had business owners tell me that their family life fell apart because of all the stress. And so it was really weighing on me. And then as everything progressed and I got deep into this fight, you start hearing, about what's going on in Minnesota, how the government's putting restraining orders on owners of businesses against their own business, and they're reaching out to me asking, how is this even possible? How are they injured in any of this? And all the tragedy that comes with it, single parents that are just struggling to survive as it is when their business is up and running, and now they're totally shut down and they have to take care of their kids, to people who can't go see their dying loved ones in the hospital or nursing home. So it's pretty crazy. And I have a really good friend out in LA, and he keeps asking me to come out there. And it's like, I can't. I'm sorry. I come out there. What are they going to do? We're going to sit in your house if I'm even allowed to get on the plane.
Right.
So and for a while there, Wisconsin was on a no-fly zone to California, which is just crazy to think about. But there's so many heartbreaking stories, but more and more there's so many inspiring stories. When I started Recipes for Freedom, it was because I did an interview with the man who's running for governor in 2022, Jonathan Wickman. And he said right before we did the interview, create a page. I was like, I don't want to create a page. And he's like, no, trust me. You're going to have a bunch of people jumping all over your Facebook page, create a page. So I did, and he was right. I mean, just it exploded. And I was originally just doing it to talk about what I'm doing here in Wisconsin and to answer some questions that I had answers to and that I've had to ask. And it wasn't long before I had gym owners from Oregon reaching out to me. I had people from Arizona, Florida, New York reaching out to me. And some of them were just, hey, thanks for standing up. But others were like, hey, how do I get help? And so that really has driven me. Now I'm pretty much doing 2 full-time jobs. And, it's a lot, but it's worth it. And when you hear the stories of like Andrew that owns Brood in Lexington, Kentucky, standing up and saying, hey, if we've gone to a place where serving a cup of coffee and a sandwich gets me prison time, we are in trouble. And he stood up against his government and won, just by standing up and saying, hey, yeah, I ain't doing this. So stories like that really inspire me. Or Lisa at the Interchange, who we did a protest to, or for and with, in Albert Lea, Minnesota, who said, you know what, I either fold, close my doors and lose everything, or I lose everything or risk losing everything. And at the same time say, no more, you're going to have to go over my dead body to take my business away. It's stories like that are inspiring. And it's what America's built on, that screw you, we're going to do this because it's right, because it's our freedoms. And every day, I probably get kicked in the gut a couple times a day, but I get picked back up at least 3-4 times a day by inspiring stories or people reaching out saying, hey, let's fight. I started this group here in my county or my state, so it's really been a great experience so far.
Looking at the group now with, excuse me, just under 5,000 members in Recipes for Freedom, which is impressive. But I think in following the page and following what you're doing and noticing a lot of those other groups that you're sharing their information on, and knowing that there's not, there's so much growth happening with this sect of society that's taking that stand, and not just taking it to be an asshole,
right?
But to really go in, and I think the great thing that you're doing is to really understand constitutional law, what it means. And I think that may be the most the greatest thing that you're doing, but also the most eye-opening thing, because I think the more that you learn and the more that you share and the more that others learn and the more that others share, you realize that we have no freaking idea what is in the Constitution. I mean, all this, and you hear people all the time talking about, well, it says this, and we're just like completely oblivious to what actually that entails. And I think when you have the guise of this pandemic that's going on right now, and what people are being force fed, whether it's through their news feed, whether it's through their local or national news channel, or word of mouth, or things that they hear, or they bits and pieces, or Fauci, or all this stuff just goes into a brain that is already overloaded with the stressors that you spoke about.
Yeah.
About not having a job, people that had to go through. I mean, tried to go through the whole unemployment thing. It took 8 months, 8 months. And they had an expectation that people were going to survive that. And I wasn't even the worst of the cases that because I started talking to people about it. I'm like, this can't be okay that we're just like letting things slide. Like, we'll figure it out when we figure it out. No, now is good. But I think the fact that you're going out and you're talking about, okay, let's just lay out what the Constitution says your rights are as a citizen, as a business owner, and how I think blindly a lot of times, a lot of situations are occurring where people are being taken advantage of, put in jail for things that if you look at the letter of the law, you have now the knowledge. And of course, I'm sure you're still gaining it as you kind of go through this process, but you're learning more every day about how, well, time out here, power grabbing governors of state XYZ, A through Z. Like, let's really take a look at what you're imposing on us and how you expect us in this domain that you've created to try to survive, try to eat, try to, make ends meet. I hope for a lot of people, and whether it's through this podcast and through the good work that you're doing, that people actually start to go, wait a minute, I would like to understand exactly what my rights are as a human. And you're doing a great job of getting that word out.
Oh, I appreciate that. And a big part of this is I sat back and I watched the divide. You had the left, you had the right. And personally, I hate politics. I'm more of the get the hell off my grass party. I just want to sit back, have a good drink, smoke a cigar, listen to some great music, and not care about politics. Right. But it kept on, you can't avoid the facts that there's such a divide. And the thing I love about the Constitution is it's not a red thing. It's not a blue thing. It's a red, white, and blue thing. Mm-hmm. And it's for everybody. And the great thing about this is there are just as many Democrats that are ticked off and want to learn what their rights are as there are Republicans. And to be able to kind of bridge that divide a little bit through the Constitution, it really kind of makes me go a little bit harder than what I probably should be going. It drives me more, and that's great. But you're absolutely right. If we don't know our rights, we don't have rights, right. And that's just, I mean, I forgot my rights, and then digging in and going, holy cow, I didn't know we had this right. I didn't realize this really meant what it means. The nice thing about the Constitution is it was written for the common man. So anybody with a common understanding can understand the Constitution, and it means what it says. That's the greatest part. So some of the words you got to look up, like unalienable, which we should know that. It just means it cannot be taken away. So just that one word, which is in the preamble, we're endowed by certain rights by a creator, whoever that may be, that are unalienable rights. That means they can never be taken away. Yet look where we are today. Right. We're sitting here going, oh, we can't do that. Oh, we have to listen to this. Oh, and that's a bunch of crap. We don't have to do that. And there's so many Supreme Court rulings that back up our rights. with the Constitution, it just will make your head spin. And the most fundamentally sound Supreme Court ruling is from 1803. So that's over 200 years that it's never been defeated in court when used as an argument. And that's Marbury versus Madison. That says any law, statute, or rule that is repugnant to the Constitution is to be considered null and void. Basically, that means if it conflicts with your rights, toss it out the window because it's not a law.
Right.
And now you think about that. You think about all these statutes that we have, all these rules that kind of bog us down and control our behavior. If it goes against our rights, that's not a law. Right. And so think of how many people are wrongly in jail or fined or imprisoned, or how many lives that's ruined. So it's a real eye-opener to see how over the years we've been so manipulated and twisted that it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. When you learn that, you get ticked off, and pretty soon you start realizing that maybe that party that you're following isn't exactly about you, it's about them. And when people start having that aha moment, it's pretty cool, because I do my speeches and the crowd will just go silent, and you look around and their mouths are like at some of this stuff, because they're learning it, and they had civics or history for most part, and they just like, this was never taught to me. And all you have to do is buy a pocket Constitution for $1 or $1.50, and you're going to learn all this stuff, And again, if you don't know your rights, you really have no rights. So
that's my new business idea. Is I'm just going to do little rolled up Constitutions, and
oh yeah, that'd be great business.
Make some money on that at this point, because I think everybody's looking for something. But I do think, and you talk about the the mandates and the things that are kind of popping up left and right, and like I'm going to say under the cover of night isn't the right phrase for that.
Sure.
But they are. I know there's something going on tomorrow. There's this banter about some like a mandatory vaccination or vaccinations, or actually having your place of business be able to tell you that if you don't get vaccinated, you can no longer work here. There's these like really freaking serious things that and maybe it's not just the COVID vaccine. Maybe it's the next one. Maybe it's we can do the mask thing, and now we can do mandatory vaccinations. And it feels like, and maybe it's just me, but it feels like these things happen and they're voted on, and like 12 people know about it.
Right.
There's not, and I'm thankful for groups like yours, because you are getting out and saying, hey, whatever side you're on, whatever your beliefs are politically or masks or whatever, to put that kind of verbiage in front of somebody's face, and they go, wait, mandatory? Like you could go into my kid's school and vaccinate him, and I wouldn't have a say in that. Like there are it's a slippery slope of things,
right?
Especially when you're talking about unelected officials in positions of either making the decisions or having influence over those who make the decisions. And I think things are starting to get a little scary, because hopefully through groups like yours and the platforms that are still available to you, that word is getting out, and people that were maybe not really, they're not really tuned in. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to, I'll do the mask thing, I'll do the thing, I'll do whatever. Then they go, wait a minute. You want to do what? Like, yeah. There has to be, I think, an eye-opening experience for somebody to see something like that printed up and go, what I like to raise my hand. How can I get involved in this meeting? How can I be out there either to protest or to stand, in front of the council and be like, I have a problem with what you're saying. We, the people, have some questions, and you, the people we put in this position, need to answer them.
Yeah, that's been something that's been an eye opener to me too, because I had the same question. How can you, who has no accountability to we the people, be doing this. And the way that our local health ordinance came about, it just, there's so many questions. And so when I started digging through the Constitution, I find out, oh wait, our forefathers were geniuses. I don't know how, but I'm not going to question it, but they foresaw so many, for lack of a better term, evil avenues that could be gone down, that they really understood, and maybe is exactly what they had seen in their lifetime from being under a king's ruler, or dictatorship and everything. But they made and they put into the Constitution rules for our legislators, whether it's the federal, our states, our local legislators. They can only legislate on certain things, and that's found in Article 1, Section 8, and bound by Section 9. There's nothing about our behavior. And we've all heard of our Miranda rights. Well, that comes from the Supreme Court case, Miranda versus Arizona. And, the Fourth Amendment was huge. You have the right to be secure in your person, your papers, your property, all that stuff. Well, it also says in there, when it comes to laws where the Constitution is concerned, there can be no laws or statutes that abrogate our rights. In other words, that takes away our rights, that throws them away. And this is another Supreme Court ruling that's never been overturned. And it's been long time standing. So we come to this, and there's so much out there that's already been determined in court cases, Supreme Court cases, that say no emergency can take away our powers, and yet they're doing this. So when it comes to our local health officers and unappointed officials making these rules, I feel like it's my duty to try to get it out there that, hey, look, they don't have this opportunity. They're trying to do something unlawful, and it's criminal. And we have to start putting these criminals in check and getting them out of office, whether elected or appointed. And once that happens, I think you're going to see a huge turnaround. And it only really takes that one bigger elected or appointed official to go down, and then a domino effect. And that's really what I'm pushing. I'm at the state level. I've taken lawful action against Mr. Evers, the Wisconsin governor, and at our local level, I've taken action against our local health director. But all these health orders were already ruled on back in May with our Supreme Court in Wisconsin, who struck down what they're trying to do at the local level now. We had an instance in my city where it wasn't too long ago, I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, where the Wisconsin governor said, I'm going to out these businesses that are allowing people to come in. And if there's any contact tracing back to their establishment, I'm going to out them in the media. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. But yet you got local health officers. And in my city, this was just happened last week, where somebody found out they had contracted COVID or tested positive, self quarantine. The holidays happened, came back after that quarantine was up, opened up their business again, and the health department went and outed them when there's no contact with anybody. So they're going against all these rulings because it didn't go in their favor. So we really need to hold these people accountable. And the biggest part of what I'm doing is just trying to educate, get the word out there. Hey, these are your rights. You got to stand up, and you got to start networking. So if this county has an issue, you get your group of people together and you deal with it. You hold these elected and appointed officials to the fire, and you make them your servant, because at the end of the day, we the people, we are sovereign. And the definition of sovereign is something like a king. And if you think about back in the day, a king, he had all the power, he had all the rights. And the servants, while they may have been somewhat free, had some rights, they don't have rights. And that's the same thing to this day. Our elected bureaucrats and appointed bureaucrats, they don't have the same rights as we the people do, because we are the masters and they are our servants. And we have to put them back into check, and let them know that we're not going to stand for what they're doing, because it has, I do believe they are the reason that there is such a great divide. I mean, 10 years ago, if your candidate lost, you might have got some ribbing out of it, but it wasn't where you were ready to throw down. The way that politics and everything else has created such a divide, it is so sad. It really literally breaks my heart. And I hear these stories, and not so much in the younger generation, but the people that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're going, my God, I don't recognize this country. And their tears are flowing in their eyes. It's heart-wrenching, and that it just, makes me fight harder for what I'm doing, and it's not just me. There's a great group backing me. So,
I think a lot of I hate to say perfect storm, but I flash back to a time in the spring when the phrase was 15 days to flatten the curve.
yeah.
Okay? And it's 10 months later.
Yep.
And all of the things that have been implemented, all, between lockdowns, and states that are still going through lockdowns. Again, I just spoke with my mom out in California yesterday, and she hasn't been able to, not that it's a big deal to her, but she hasn't been able to go to the beautician and get her hair done in 10 months. And, Wisconsin had a little bit easier, but because of what the Supreme Court did in striking down those orders from Evers, opened some things up. But again, then as you mentioned, then we had to deal with some health department, stuff and mandates, and everybody was kind of confused on what that meant. And so now we have to. We don't have to. It's like a strong suggestion, and I think people are so mentally fatigued, not just because of the political arena and all things that have been going on. We had the strangest, because of COVID, like one of the bright spots was there was like no political ads, there was like 6, and they all ran in a week,
right.
Nobody, because everybody was, there was like one debate, and then there was, we all know how that went, or 2 debates. We all know how those went. But I think you kind of missed out on that. But even that, it was so draining just because of all the, like I said, you wake up every day and it's different rules. And then you wake up the next day and it's like, okay, my kid doesn't have school. So my kid lives here, your kid lives here, and he has school, but he doesn't. Okay. Like, right. Okay, how does this, and I understand, different areas and different hotspots and things like that. But I think the one big thing that's like not being talked about, and maybe it is in certain circles, is like this complete lack of self-responsibility. Like if you're sick, don't go out. If you know you have, what is the average now? I think it's like 2.5 comorbidity factors. If you know you have some underlying health issues or you're over a certain age, there needs to be extra precaution taken. We get that. But I think that what we're falling under, and why this, understanding the constitutional rights, is that everybody's being kind of put in the same bubble, yet this whole thing isn't affecting people the same way.
Right.
And that doesn't, and you want to cross-section that bubble with the fact that now we're dealing with what is going to be a major mental health issue. And all those, like the reason that society was set up the way it is, the reason that it functions or semi-functioned, it didn't really ever function smoothly. We know that.
Yeah.
But the reason that it kind of worked the way that it worked is because your kids went to school, you went to work, your wife went to work, and you had like 6 hours together every day. And that was it. And you know what? And then you had the weekends, and you did fun things on the weekends, and then it was great.
Yeah.
But when you started to have, and trust me trying to learn new math, Nobody wants that, dude. Like nobody is like, I'm like, no, this is not how you do it. You all these stressors that get added in, you're home together all the time. You want to go out and do something, but you can't do it. It leads to this mindset that, and I think has led to a lot of, I don't want to say the political uprisings, and I don't condone anything that happened last week. I think that's horrible, but you have people are stressed the F out.
Yeah.
And they're like on edge, losing businesses, losing money, dipping into their 401ks, having to completely start over. Nothing in their life is normal. And we're just supposed to be like, cool, 15 days to flatten the curve. 10 months and 15, like we're all like on this, like, well, 2021's gonna be better. I present to you the first 11 days of 2021.
Yep.
It's a slippery slope. And I think hopefully because of the actions of things that you're doing and the words that you're getting out with your group and having a real understanding that we always feel like those who have the microphone, not me, not you, those who have the big microphones, they get to take over your television 18 times a day and your news feed on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook 20 times a day. We kind of get this sense that, oh, well, obviously they're in charge for a reason.
Right.
But they're not. And I think it's great the fact that you're getting out on this platform with, again, almost 5,000 members of this group already, and hopefully more after this, that you're saying, what actually, they work for we the people.
Right.
And if we the people are smart enough to go, hey, wait a second, like, okay, we understand this. This makes no sense. You're ruining people's livelihood, their business, their mental stability, causing all these other issues that aren't really talked about a whole lot. Something has to be done. And I think as you've seen, and as you push forward and you see, standing up for things like that, that's what creates that, like, okay, there needs to be some alterations, there needs to be some changes.
Exactly. And the way we go about that is getting back to the Constitution. There's been so much hate and venom spewed at our law enforcement since this summer, and some was rightfully deserved. I'm not gonna deny that at all. But we have sheriffs in every county. So there's roughly 3,000 sheriffs in the U.S. And their job is to protect the Constitution. In each county, they're supposed to uphold it, protect it, and they're supposed to protect the courts. That's their main job. It's not to go out and do speed traps. It's not to go out and do all the peripheral stuff. Now, that is part of what it's morphed into, which is fine, whatever. But their main job is to support and uphold the Constitution. And they are our last line of defense. When we are at this point, when we're at, we're looking for constitutional sheriffs because we want to support them. We want to give them every single piece of anything they want and need if they're going to uphold and defend our rights. And one of the things, like you said, people are wrapped up in this bubble, and the tensions out there. I mean, when you go to a store and you see an 86-year-old lady swinging a purse ready to fight somebody because she's being told she can't go into the store, for whatever reason, that says something. And so part of what I'm doing is an outreach to sheriffs and law enforcement saying, hey, look, you took an oath to office. That oath is actually a contract, a verbal contract. And the Constitution doesn't give us our rights. Our unalienable rights come from our Creator, whoever that may be. And that Constitution is a contract between we the people and our government servants. And when you take a vow, and everybody takes a vow that's either elected or appointed officer in the government, you're saying that you're signing your name on the line, even though it's verbal, that you're going to uphold and defend the Constitution along with other things. But that's the two major things. What people don't realize who are in government is when they violate that oath, when they go against our rights, they self-enact the 14th Amendment, sections 3 and 4, which vacates their office. So they no longer have judicial immunity. They no longer are free from criminal charges or being sued professionally or personally. So that means if we so choose, we could sue them for their house, their bank accounts, their cars. You know, I'm not saying that's what we want to go out and do, but when we bring that forward to these people, it slaps them in the face and lets them know, hey, whoa, maybe this person's right. And so part of the education isn't just to everyday people, it's going to the sheriffs and it's telling them, hey, look, here's the sheriff's handbook. It goes through your duties. It goes through the Constitution. Please give it a read. We want to be here for you. If you're going to support us, we're definitely going to support you. We want to be there to help you fundraise. We want to be there to do back the badge events, community relations, or if you need anything, reach out to us. You know, and if you're going to uphold our Constitution and back us up, we are going to campaign for you. We're going to make sure you are our sheriff as long as you want to be. And it's getting that message out there that is really huge. And I've had one sheriff say, I don't want anything to do with, you know, what you got to say about the Constitution. But every sheriff will say, I'm a constitutional sheriff. But then you'll say, well, I'm not going to stop a store from kicking you out. Really? Why would you allow a crime to happen?
Right.
Because we have rights. And one of the biggest fallacies out there is, well, it's a private business, they can kick us out. Well, no, they can't, because if you're a business that's open to the public, you have to abide by discrimination laws. You cannot just kick somebody out because they walk into your store. And if somebody doesn't wear a mask, and I don't care if you wear a mask or if you don't, that I don't care. I care if you tell me I have to do something because I have rights. You know, if I want to do it, I'll do it. If I don't, piss off, you know? So by you just walking into a store and not wearing a mask, that's not causing a disturbance. So you have to cause a disturbance or cause destruction to be trespassed from some place, unless you've already gone through that whole system and had your due process. So if a store tells you or a business says, hey, you can't be in here because you're not wearing a mask, they're discriminating against you. You know, you have that right to be into any store. And you'll hear people say, well, you have curbside pickup. No, that's not an equal accommodation, because you're paying more. Or if you go online, you don't get to go in there and pick up this, or you don't get to see what's on sale for that week, you know, in the bargain bin or whatever. You don't get the exercise of walking around. You don't have the same experience. So it's not equal. That would be the equivalent of saying, hey, you're a minority. We have a restroom for you, but it's around back of the store. We still provide you with service, but it's not the same thing, you know. And we've went from in the 60s, it was minorities that were under attack. And then after 9/11, there was certain sects of religious organizations under attack. And now it's this virtual signaling that if you're not wearing a mask, you're a bad person. Or if you say, hey, I have a medical or religious exemption, you're a bad person. You know, so it's discrimination. It may not look the same, but it is the same. And it's a criminal offense. You know, you have rights, and there's federal laws that are out there, like Title 18, Section 242 of U.S. Code, deprivation of rights under color of law. Everybody thinks that when the governor says there's a mask mandate, you have to do this and that it's a law. Well, it's not, because the governor can't make laws. The judges can't make laws. So because people think it's a law and they try to use it, that's when you're depriving somebody of their rights under the color of law, which is something that seems like a law, but it's not.
Right.
And so we go to the sheriffs and say, hey, look, if you just go to businesses and say, hey, you're breaking this law, you're breaking this law. Knock it off. You're going to have happier customers. You're probably going to do more business. And on the sheriff's side, they're not putting their officers at risk. They're not putting them at risk physically. They're not putting them at risk financially, and they're not putting them at risk of losing their job and maybe jail time. And some officers or some sheriffs have said, yeah, that's actually a great idea. I can nip that in the bud. And others are like, well, I won't make you wear a mask. I won't enforce the 25 or the 50% occupancy, but I'm not going to stop that. Like, so you're not going to stop a crime, so it's an educational piece. And to go into a sheriff or law enforcement and say, hey, look, you're wrong, doesn't always go so well.
Really? But I feel like every time I've tried that, it's gone really well for me. Never gone well.
But I've had great success because once I say, hey, look, I understand you're doing your job. And I'm not saying you're an idiot. I'm saying this is the actual law. Here it is. Please look it up, read it. And when they do, they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. And they walk away. And so, I don't want to see, I come from a long line of law enforcement. I have a brother in Detroit that's a police officer. I had an aunt out in Eagle County, Colorado, that was the sheriff's deputy. Both my grandfathers were police. My wife's uncle is the sheriff of Ashland County. I mean, so it goes a long ways. I have the utmost respect for law enforcement, and I don't want to see them hurt anyway. And so I enjoy being able to talk with them. I have sheriffs calling me saying, hey, I heard I need to talk to you. And we have a great conversation. 2 hours later, he's like thanking me, offering to buy me lunch or whatever when I'm in the area, Right. So it's a lot of fun to do that. But at the same time, we shouldn't be at a spot in our history where we have to educate our law enforcement and ask them to do our job, And so just reaffirming that we have rights and we're in control, that's the battle right now. And it honestly, it sucks. I wish I could be ice fishing as much as I could right now, but the only ice fishing I'm doing is to put a couple ice cubes in a drink at night.
That's just to take the edge off of the day. Man.
Yeah.
I think that it goes back to that whole being educated about how the system works, and I think just because of the fact that, and not everybody. You mentioned a couple of groups that they're kind of in a different mindset where it doesn't always work this way. The law enforcement rules and regulations aren't always in their favor, but for the majority, we've kind of gone through a long period of time, and not forever, not since the beginning of not since the Declaration was signed, but this long stretch of time where it's been like right and wrong, and I can kind of do what I want in the middle. But now we're in this weird, and everything is messed up. I mean, it's science has got 14 different answers, and state to state, county to county, city to city, it's all got different rules and regulations. Everybody's kind of like walking around cross-eyed. But what I think that leads to is a lot of confusion about what's really going on. And sometimes that confusion can lead to angst and anger, and people will put their foot in the sand on things and not fully understand what they're drawing the line on.
Right.
Like, no, this, because I heard this, or because I know somebody who's got COVID, or because somebody went through this is just how it is. This is what makes it better. And they're infringing, whether on purpose or unpurposefully, on other people's rights that are given to us in the Constitution. And they're, again, it could be completely unknowingly doing it.
Right.
And but I think it's also part of culture that we've kind of, because of social media, because, it maybe it just exposed us more for being a bunch of assholes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I do think that because we've had this long run of being able to say whatever the hell we want to, whoever the hell we want, doesn't matter. We could sit behind the keyboard and do it. Now I think we're coming out of the internet and we're able to spew our thoughts on everybody else.
Right.
Because I think that you should wear a mask and you're not wearing a mask in public. I'm just going to cause a scene. And
right.
but I think the more people get educated, even the sheriff's departments that you're talking to, they get like re-educated, because I'm sure
Yep.
for a lot of them, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a minute since they went, oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And they, instead of being like, oh well, so and so told me that I need to enforce this, and this is just going to be the way it is now. They go, oh wait, that's not really my position. Is not to be, the law arm of, the CDC or health departments or whatever. It is for we the people. And I think there has been some things and videos that get posted, and when you really start to see, there was one, and I know it was out in LA, so and people can call that irrelevant, but I think it is a good indication that there's some issues. And it was a restaurant owner in Los Angeles or just outside of LA. And at one point, before they changed their mind again, the governor said outdoor dining is okay. So said restaurant owner, who's already losing her ass because she had to be at a 25% cap or whatever, already losing her money, already losing, probably half of her business, says, okay, I will invest to create this outdoor space. And it's ventilated, and it's LA. It rains like once.
Right.
So it's beautiful outdoor space. I don't know, 20 grand maybe to put that together. It's LA, so probably more. And had to obviously take space out of her property that was probably utilized for parking or something, which again, LA, tough to come by. And so she's walking around the outside of her building and showing her now closed, because they can't have outdoor dining in California, her beautiful newly built outdoor dining facility, and then pans over to where they're shooting a movie, because Hollywood is considered an essential business, and they have their outdoor tent set up and their picnic tables, and they have their staff and their crew, everybody out there eating. She can be open as a business owner, but because we all need to see the new, John Wick 4, which if they're filming John Wick 4, sorry. But, they're filming, whatever, The Matrix 4. Keanu Reeves apparently getting a lot of love on the show. Join me next. But you have this blatant similarity. Here's my outdoor dining. Here's their outdoor dining. It's the same thing, yet I can't do it, but they can.
Right.
So I think when you start to see those things, you really start to understand that we're in a weird place of people are making decisions that really have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a bizarro world.
And that's I think that's scary for a lot of people, because they're like, I don't know what to do, so I guess I'll just follow what I'm told to do and put my mask on and stay home and under a blanket and only eat, chickpeas, and like, I don't know. It's just a weird spot. But I think, and I'm going to throw Heather's comment up on here. Heather Muller has a great post there, watching on Facebook, educate yourself. And I think that's it. But the problem comes that everybody's so effed in the head right now because of everything else going on. Like, I don't know if I have the mental capacity to do it, but but from you, Kyle, what are some of the basic rights that people need to understand? I know you've talked about a lot of them during this. And again, if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitch, thank you so much. Feel free to jump on and leave a comment or ask a question. Kyle's got a lot of great knowledge and done a lot of great research on this. But like some things that just regular Joe Schmo, those that are watching and going, I don't know. I don't know what do people need to know as like their rights? What can they do? And if they want to get involved, what are some good ways to do it? What helps move the meter on these kind of things?
Oh, I mean, to me, every right is equal. Some will say this right outweighs this one, or the rights. Your First Amendment is the First Amendment because it's the most important, and then it goes down the line. Personally, you have the right to religion. So if you're trying to go into places, a lot of the religions look at mask as a satanic symbol. Okay. Other religions say suicide is against their morals. And CO2 breathing in the CO2 that's trapped in mask, that creates a slow suicide. So there's reasons people don't, either for religious or moral reasons, which all fall under your creed. So I think that's something to understand. That's why I hear the argument, no shoes, no shirt, no service. Why is mask different? Because shoes and shirts, and unless there's religion out there that I'm unaware of that makes it wrong to wear clothes, which I should do some investigating on that one.
Where's the no pants religion? Like, where does what's the creed on that one? I had some questions.
I mean, so you toss that out. But to me, the most important one is your Fourth Amendment, your right to be secure in your person, your papers, your property. Property doesn't just mean what you have tangibly in your hand or physically in your hands. It means your rights, and it means your body. It means your biological offspring, not children, but your biological offspring. So that's your property, and nobody can make you unlawfully do anything to damage yourself or even potentially damage yourself. For years, masks, when you're in med school, they have side effects. A mask is a medical device. They go over a whole time in med school of, hey, if you wear a mask for prolonged periods, this could happen or this could happen. Right. Same with vaccines. There is, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer, there are definitely some vaccines that are great. There are some vaccines that will never touch my body, but I don't care what you think. I'm just saying that there are vaccines that have history of a lot of side effects and some are death. So when people say I'm worried about my employment forcing me to get vaccine or forcing me to wear masks, look, you have rights. They can't force you to harm yourself. It's part of the Fourth Amendment. And as long as that's your argument when you go in, and always have the facts. Just like, we've all seen that guy or that girl that says to an officer as they're getting arrested, I know my rights, you can't do this. Oh yeah, what are your rights? Have the proof to back it up. Here you go. This is my argument and this is why. Have some base to stand on. Unfortunately, where we're at today is you're going to stand up. You're probably going to get knocked down and fired, but you have recourse. You have remedy because you can take them to court. And as long as there's not, you're stealing or you're doing this or you're being drunk on, or causing damage, you're going to have some recourse to go after that employer. And unfortunately, we're going to have to get to that point before, not only with our employers, but with our stores and stuff. And, I think part of all the confusion that's happening and is everybody, for the most part, is really good. They want to do what's good for everybody. Right. And when we start seeing stuff that doesn't agree with, it doesn't pass the eye test, it doesn't pass the common sense part, so we start getting like, what the hell? We get confused. It goes to what you were saying earlier. So everybody just is at a point where nothing makes sense anymore. And so they're questioning everything. And for some, that's making them go a certain way that's out of whack, and the others, the opposite direction that's out of whack. Really, that line's been so blurred now. We need to get back to black and white, and the Constitution's always black and white. It is the supreme law of the land. So what it says, it means. There's no degrees of your rights either. There is no law. The general rule, you want to know what your rights are? The general rule is if it violates one of your rights, it's an unlawful law. And if it's unlawful law, it's not a law.
Right.
So the best thing to do is educate yourself. Just like Heather said, educate yourself. It's not hard. It's not expensive. You can go to Hillsdale College. They give free constitutions out. And not that was a plug, but for the Constitutional Law Group, one of our advisors is the president of Hillsdale College. So the Constitutional Law Group's been around for 30 plus years. We're not a fly-by-night organization. We have constitutional attorneys. We have the president of Hillsdale College. We have forensics experts, CPAs. We have Dr. David Martin, who created the CNBC IQ 100. I mean, we have legit brains. And Mark Emery too, who's a constitutional lawyer. We have people that know this. They're not just spitballing ideas saying, hey, this is something I heard, or I seen this on this site. This has been stuff that's been practiced for decades, and it's true. If you want to get in a fight, you can always follow at Recipes for Freedom on Facebook, MeWe, hopefully again on Parler, Rumble, all under Recipes for Freedom. I always send everybody, because 99% of your questions will be answered if you go to constitutionallawgroup.us. There's a plethora of resources. There's videos. There's Hillsdale College online videos there. And it's just amazing. We have a great network of patriots all over the U.S. Sidney Powell is one of our contributors, and that name needs not to be, that's pretty heavy when you have her linking up and helping. We're both helping each other. We have Peggy Hall from out in California, which everybody's heard of, the healthyamerican.org. There's a video, I think April or May, with Tammy Clark, the OSHA consultant that called BS on everything and said, hey, why is OSHA not standing up for the standards they've had for decades? Right. She's part of our network. So we're not just a group of lunatics telling you, hey, this is going to work, just trust me. The best thing to do is start a group. Who people that are like-minded, that want to be free, want to get back to normal. Start a group and expand your network. Do it county by county, and you have that group there for everything you need, not just to get back to normal, but in the future. If there's a school board that's going astray, get some of those people to run, or find somebody and really support them. If there's a sheriff that's struggling for whatever reason, go and support them. Law enforcement, there's a death in law enforcement, be there for them. We need to get back to being a community and caring and uniting. There's always time to piss and moan about this or that, and we just need to get back to caring for each other. And if we want to turn our nation around and get back to being how we were, hell, even 15 years ago, we have to start locally and grow that out. So, that's something I encourage everybody to do, is just find a group, get with that group, and go from there. And if that group doesn't work for you, I'm sure there's another group out there of like-minded people that want the best for the situation that we're at.
Right. Got a great comment here from Cassie. Educating myself, but it's so hard when the masses are not educating themselves and just going with things and looking like the crazy. I think a lot of people, but that's the nice thing is, Cassie and others, a lot of people feel that way. So you're not just crazy by yourself. You're just crazy with a bunch of other crazy people. But that's the toughest part, because I think we touched on this a couple of times, is that you have people that are they got it figured out. They heard what the TV man said, and they got it all figured out. But and this goes back to, and I want to touch a little bit on the Parler thing, just because I want to get your 2 cents on it, is that you really do have to, and it's tough. It's tough to tell somebody else to, hey, take a look at this, or, here, it's tough to even express your own thoughts.
Right.
Especially in an open platform like a Facebook or a Twitter, because you do have keyboard warriors who will come out and they will, verbally attack people and say outlandish things because they are so set in the way that they think, and whether or not it's, constitutionally correct, or it's just, again, the man on TV told me, so therefore I shall follow thy rules. It is a very, especially now, because you have a lot of tension. There's so much tension right now, and everything seems to be like it's connected to one another. Like this because I think this way about COVID or masks must mean that I also feel this way politically or which is majority of the time furthest thing from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You can go, this is bullshit. This I get, but maybe we shouldn't have it so broad, so expansive. So like, okay, let's look at the numbers here and figure out who needs to really be taken care of and who is probably okay to go out and do as they please. But that's the scary part for a lot of people, is that you do start to, I think, when you start to educate yourself and you start to understand, you start to look at multiple sources of information and not just what is being fed in the narrative. Some people who will toe the line all the way down till the cliff ends will call you crazy or say that, well, no, that's just wrong because it's not what, again, the man on TV told me, or the person on Facebook, or the pages I follow. So it's a very, just social economically, it's a very tough situation. And I think, what you're doing with, getting the word out there about the constitutional rights and talking to the sheriff's departments and understanding, their laws and what they're in that place for. But I think the world of the interwebs, which again, we talked about leaking out into how people act towards each other in public, which is scary.
Right.
It's a weird, tangled world. And I think even, you talked a little bit about Parler, and for those of you who don't know, Parler was basically, and not to get off on this tangent, but I'm going to shortly, or just for a little bit. So everybody on Twitter says, if you have an opinion that leans this way, and let's be honest, it was if you lean conservative or if you lean right, go find your own place because we don't want you here on Twitter. Again, right. Twitter is its own business. Mm-hmm. But, and this was the whole thing that was going in front of Congress, is the fact that you are now basically like the electric company. Right, you are basically an essential provider of mass communication. I mean, not just Trump on Twitter, but Obama was on Twitter. When Twitter started to blow up, it became this platform for communication and news and information and people being able to talk to one another. So they basically said, if you have these opinions, go and start your own place to talk about it. We don't want it here.
Yeah.
So they did. And then once, the whole thing with, the freedom of speech thing with Trump being banned off Twitter and all the other social platforms, you had big tech, Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, go after Amazon Web Services, go and shut down this platform you told them to go and build. Now, they'll come back online. I know they're working to get their servers back up. And again, some of the crap that's on Parler is a little fucking crazy. I mean, let's not.
Right. Yeah.
Some of the things on Twitter and some of the things on Facebook and some of the things on Instagram and there's craziness all over the place. People don't pretend that it's not. Yeah. But the scary thing about that is even in a conversation like this one that we've had for the last, hour and 20 minutes or so, we're not pushing any agenda. We're strictly laying out, like, just know what you're talking about. Understand where you stand as a citizen of the United States, as a part of we the people. Pretty simple. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't. If you don't want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. If you don't. It's not laying out an agenda or a narrative for anybody. It's just simply laying out fact. And I think where the scary part comes in is that if that's the tip of the iceberg, it's really a scary, slippery slope, because you won't be able to find out things. The Constitution will be there. I mean, go get your $1.50 pocket one and hold on to it. But information that comes out that is strictly based on fact, and as you said, black and white, it's written down. They wrote it in feathers under candlelight, people. Right. It doesn't be much more black and white than that. And they knew that many years ago. But I think it's a scary place for people who want to have not necessarily people that just lean one direction, but people that want to have information from both sides. They want to have information. They want all the info. If you have all the information, you are, as a human being, as a citizen of the U.S., you are able to make your own educated decision and choices based on all the information, not just this information, but all of it. Did the Parler thing kind of, I know you posted something about, having some fears about groups like yours being targeted next. Do you still have those fears? And what do you think about the whole Parler thing?
Oh, definitely. And I did disable being able to have my followers comment, because quite frankly, there's a lot of rabbit holes that keep coming up. I mean, and I don't blame people for wanting to follow this or that or looking for hope. I think at this point, everybody on both sides is looking for some type of hope. But when, like, for instance, I've seen the same meme. President Trump is at whatever mountain, is going to speak at 9 p.m. Eastern for the last 6 days. It's like, well, he's 6 days behind now, and I get it. Again, people are looking for hope, but it's just, when it got to the point where somebody would post a doctor or a stats expert that this has been this person's job, he is revered in his field, and now it's flagging my page because an expert said something that went against somebody's thoughts, or somebody just didn't like that, so they reported it. So I took that off because there is a lot of censorship. And I don't care. Like you said, mask, no mask. I don't care if you're Trump or Biden. You know what I care about? I care about the Constitution, and I don't want to know, who you sleep with or how you vote. Are you a good person? If you're a good person, I don't care. I don't care if you're purple, and it doesn't matter to me. What matters at the end of the day is, are you good? And if I need you to defend me, or you need me to defend you, can we count on each other?
Right. And
that's where we go with it. With the whole Parler thing, I was just watching some of Dan Bongino, who's an investor, and he was showing a Twitter pic from, I think it's the CEO of Twitter, that one of their apps is now number one, and he put a heart and he screenshotted it. It's kind of a slap in the face because Parler was number one. They were growing so fast because people are sick of the censorship. Whatever happened to the days where you could have a good disagreement, and if somebody got out of line, then you deal with it. Just because you have a difference of opinion, that doesn't mean that it's bad. And think about it. Never before in our history have experts in their field, world-renowned experts, been wrong because they're on the wrong side of an issue, or discredited just because. Or if you have the actual manual that says they tell you, nope, that's not true. So it's just a weird time that we're living in. And because I'm trying to put out a message that doesn't care what side you're on or what you like or don't like. It's just one straight thing. I find it's hard to balance sometimes. I put stuff out there that I know is going to throw a flag, and I just cringe going, okay, it's the truth, but I'm putting it out there. Is this going to get my page shut down today? So we're working on different avenues in case that happens. And quite frankly, I expect it to happen. I'm on the watch list because 5 years ago, I posted something that they didn't like all of a sudden a couple months ago. So, I mean, and what it was a picture of how many congressmen, both Republican and Democrat, were sitting down during the national anthem in Congress. That's what I got flagged for. So, I mean, you got proof right there. You can see people with their hand on their heart looking at the flag, and you see all these people sitting. But that's going to throw a flag now. So it is what it is. We try to navigate. We try to adjust. I catch flack for it. I'm called a Trump supporter, even though I'm not, just because I stand up for the Constitution. People make up their minds, and they're so afraid to step back from the emotion to look and say, hey, look at this guy. I'm guilty of it too. for the longest time, I thought Rage Against the Machine was just a bunch of anarchists that all they wanted was destruction.
Right.
But as all this COVID stuff starts, and I listen to them again, I'm like, holy cow, these guys were sounding an alarm years ago.
Right.
Because a lot of what's in their songs is happening today. And I go back and, you know, I love all kinds of music, but I'm listening to bands like Disturbed and Slipknot and Fever 333 and Rage Against the Machine. And I'm listening to their words going, wow, they were talking about this years ago, you know, and they were trying to sound an alarm without being too political, you know, but at the same time, and maybe it's just because it's a situation where you can relate to that too. But with Rage, because I felt one way, I was like, oh, they're horrible. I'll never listen to them.
Right.
You know, but if you can step back from the emotion and listen to a person or listen to an argument, you might actually learn something, and you might realize, holy cow, I was on the wrong side of this, you know?
I'm not saying it's purely coincidental, but Rage Against the Machine announces their reunion in early 2020, and the fucking lid blew off the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's not it. Everybody's like, yeah, Rage is getting back together. You know, perfect time for it, obviously, because you're going into an election year that everybody knew was going to be a shit show anyway.
Right.
And then like Rage is getting back together, and I'm like, okay, well, not going to do no concerts, no shows for you.
Right. Yeah.
No, I think it's Kyle. I want to first off say thank you for not only what you're doing, but for taking the time to do the educational part of it. I think that's a lot of people can get on social media, especially, and wave a flag for something and have no, you know, backing or understanding of what it is they're saying. I think we see a lot of that. People just either going with a narrative or going completely against it, or following a group, but don't actually have, you know, or don't take the time to go and actually do the research and understand and educate, and then be completely transparent about it. Say, no, I'm just telling you the letter of the law, you know, the letter of the laws of the land here. So I applaud you for that and for your group. Constitutionallawgroup.us is the website. I know you got a bunch of great resources on there. So in the show notes, when we publish the podcast tomorrow, we'll make sure we get that in there. But I do think that what you're doing is so important, because it does bring whoever watches this and on whatever platform, or, you know, we'll share the video after we're done here. We'll put it in the Recipes for Freedom page so people can watch it if they missed it. But to take the time to know what's right and what's wrong, and completely take the emotion out of it. We talked about that. Take that, the angsty feeling that whether you have it because of you've been trapped in your house, or whether you have it because you lost your job or you're losing your business. If you just want to look at what am I okay to do? What's the black and white? We've said that over and over again, but what is, show me the way, okay, this is okay and this is not, and what's happening to us has a lot of big question marks. And people that are not in elected positions making decisions for us is something that I think everybody, no matter what side of the aisle, no matter what side of the mask mandates or you know, vax, anti-vax you're on, I think you need to understand and then make your decision. Okay, I understand the law. I understand exactly what's right and what's wrong according to the Constitution. Now, from there, I can make a decision whether it's based on that fact or my emotion or my beliefs still override that. Then, okay, make that decision, and that is yours to make. But at least have the knowledge behind it to go, okay, I know that it's not okay that they're infringing on these personal rights, but because of this, and this, these circumstances, I'm still going to go this way. But I think having that education and the fact that you're getting it out there, getting in front of people, you know, getting back on that microphone, which belongs in your hand, doing the damn thing. I applaud you, man. I appreciate everything that you're doing.
I appreciate it. And the beard's growing in really nice for you. I even got a little bit of inspiration from you. I'll never be able to grow what you got, but
telling you, it's all patience. When I first started growing my beard, my buddy Phil's like, prepare yourself to look homeless for like 3 months. And I did. I just looked like Forrest Gump when he goes on that run. He's like, I just started running, and then I didn't cut my hair, didn't shave, and then all of a sudden 2 years later, here we go.
Wow.
But cool, man. No, thank you for the time again. Constitutionallawgroup.us is the website. Recipes for Freedom is the group on Facebook. Go and join that. Find out all the stuff you guys got going on, because you are also posting all the information about things that are going to be voted on, and people should probably be aware of, because sometimes that doesn't make the local news or the headlines.
Typically doesn't. They like to ignore it.
But hey, here's a story about puppies.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
Kyle, my friend, thank you so much for the time, man. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourself and your family. Go put some ice cubes in the glass and pour a beverage.
That sounds good. Tequila time.
Awesome, brother. All right. Thank you so much to Kyle. Going to wrap things up here and say, if you do want to know more about, again, what Kyle's got going on, constitutionallawgroup.us is the website, and Recipes for Freedom on Facebook. You can follow my show, of course. That's Welcome to Cooperville on all platforms for now. See what I did there? Dramatic pause for effect. But we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, I think still. I think we still have a Twitter account. And also on Twitch, twitch.tv/NoLimitCooper. You can follow the show. You can catch up on all the clips. You can watch this video over and over again to your heart's content. And YouTube as well. We'll be on there. So thank you. Until next time, we do have Dr. Jay LaGuardia going to join us coming up on Wednesday. We're going to talk more about COVID-19. We're going to talk about some of the things that you're not being told about how you can take care of your damn self. Supplementation, exercise, sleep, vitamin D. We're going to talk about all that coming up on Wednesday right here. Thank you so much for listening. Have yourselves a great night. And I'm going to go make myself a cup.